He's one of the most famous musicians of all time. So much in demand that normally he doesn't have time to give interviews of more than 15 minutes. But we're in luck. Today he's agreed to give us a full hour in front of the cameras.
Paul, great to see you again.
Lovely to be here.
We'll hear his own unique story of the Beatles.
It's a bit of a shock to all of us. He just announced it, oh, I'm leaving the group.
Watch some of the highs and a few lows in his life.
The future? Must see this.
And we'll hear him play. Paul McCartney is my guest on the Frost Interval.
Yes!
Honored by their country, decorated by their queen, here are the Beatles!
The Beatles, John, Paul, George and Ringo, helped to define the 1960s, transforming modern music. They played sell-out concerts all over the world in front of hysterical fans. At the height of Beatlemania, fans screamed so loud that the group said they couldn't hear their own music.
Have you been in any way flattered by the hysterical reaction of teenagers?
Yeah, very flattered.
They were carefree, cheeky,
And 6 cars were arrested.
rebellious. With more than 20 number-one hits through the 60s, the Beatles were seemingly unstoppable. But the group couldn't last.
Does this mean a business or emotional split within the Beatles?
I should think a bit of both.
Today, Paul will tell us the truth behind the headlines of the split.
I was fighting the other 3 guys, who are my lifelong buddies.
We'll hear inside stories of the group whose studio in London's Abbey Road is still a shrine to them.
Their music is awesome, and it's always in my heart.
The songs written by Paul McCartney and John Lennon live on through the generations.
He was pretty hot stuff. And writing with me, I was pretty hot stuff too.
From humble origins, Paul McCartney is now one of the richest men in the world.
I think people have a strange idea about working class, like they're all thick.
Now 70, he's even topped the bill at the White House. It's a far cry from the English city of Liverpool in the 1950s, when John and Paul met and history was made.
We started off writing very simple songs together. Gradually the songs got a little more complex, a little better as we learned our trade. And then eventually, because we didn't spend time in hotel rooms together anymore, and we lived separately, he would write something, I would write it, and then we would probably finish each other's songs off. You know,
yeah, that's fascinating. You really could do that, couldn't you?
Yeah, you know, I'd write something like Eleanor Rigby, and I just didn't have the last verse or something, but I knew how the song went. So I'd take it to him and sort of say, okay, now, here's how it goes. What do you think? And it was a great way to work, and I valued his opinion greatly as he valued mine, because we'd grown up together, so we knew that each of us knew. And he would say, it's great, it's fine, you know. And I had, the second verse, I had a character called Father McCartney. Father McCartney, do-do-do-do. And he said, oh, that's nice. I said, no, that's my dad. I said, I don't really want to be singing about Father McCartney. So we got the phone book out. McCartney, Mackenzie. So he became Father Mackenzie.
Yeah. Oh.
So those kind of things were great to do. He'd bring a song and I'd finish it off, Day in the Life. He had, I read the news today, oh boy. So we'd finish it together and then do all the verses together, slot my little thing in the middle of it all. And then occasionally we would write things totally separately and finish them up.
Right.
It was really just because we didn't live together anymore. I don't think either of us minded. I sort of would write Hey Jude and just play it to him as a finished thing. He'd write whatever, Strawberry Fields, play that to me. But it was a great thing. You know, looking back on it, I really feel blessed to be the guy who wrote with John, you know, because he was pretty hot stuff. And writing with me, I was pretty hot stuff too. So the two of us, you know, gelled. John and I wrote together something like 300 songs, just short of 300. We would meet up, sit down to write, and 3 hours later we'd have a song. And never did we have a dry session. We never came away from a session, was all we couldn't figure it out. We always wrote a song. And you know, looking back on it, I think, you know, that's pretty cool, pretty amazing. And we only had a couple of moments where it nearly went pear-shaped, but we fixed them, had a cup of tea. So it was pretty great. You know, it was a great experience for me.
Liverpool in the 1940s was a tough place in which to grow up. It was bombed regularly during the war. There was widespread rationing. But music helped to keep the spirits up.
Really, my sort of first interest in music, or my first taste of music, would be the family sing-alongs, which were New Year's Eve. And it was a great evening, you know, because it's quite a big family. They'd roll the carpets back and all the ladies would have little gin and its, rum and blacks, baby shams, and steadily get drunker during the evening. And there'd be someone playing the piano. Most of the time that was my dad. So he would play all these things, and later on I took over that role. But that's where I heard all these old songs, you know, Chicago, and I say the great thing was, because that was the entertainment of that era. It was pre-TV, so it was great. It all sort of, I took it all in like a sponge, and so when I grew up, I had a great affection for those songs, and I realised that I'd been noticing without realising it the structure of the songs and some of the tricks and some of the things that would later find their way into my songs, just because they were in my sort of subconscious. You know.
Well, let's take a look at those boyhood days, in fact.
My thoughts are ever wending home. When
rocking there.
it's cold, my heart is forever yearning once more to be returning home.
And that was it. That was the homestead.
That was home, yeah. That was one of the homes. We moved around a lot. My mum was a midwife, so we had a few homes. That was where we ended up.
Did you think of yourselves as, typical British phrases, working class, middle class?
Working class, I thought. John was middle class.
Because they had their own house or something?
Yeah, they had their own house. That was a good start for middle classes. We were in a council house. Yeah, I was always very proud, working class, you know, that suit me fine. I still think of myself as that. I still am.
You still do?
Yeah, I do, really. It's, maybe I should have adapted, but I haven't. I mean, in my mind, I think I'm actually very proud to be of the working classes, you know. I think people have a strange idea about working classes, like they're all thick. My family was like amazingly intelligent. My dad was really a great wordsmith. My cousin Bert used to compile crosswords for Telegraph, Guardian and Times, which are probably three of the best crosswords in the world. So, I mean, you know, there were no slouches when it came to that. So I was very proud of that hidden factor of the working classes, you know, They were actually quite well read, quite intelligent,
And you said that you'd met princes and prime ministers and so on, but there was nothing better than the common sense of a Liverpool lad or a Liverpool man.
Yeah, I believe that. You know, I've met, as you say, lots of great people, and I think they are great, but I don't think they're any greater than some of the great people I met as a kid, you know, who were just ordinary people, but had, you know, common sense, had the nous, you know, had the humour, and, you know, had the wit to not become a prime minister. Who needs that job?
Did the death of your mother interrupt your life? You were only 14, weren't you?
Oh yeah, it did. It was strange because in those days nobody talked about it. So we just knew my mum was ill, and we had to go and stay with my auntie. And then just one morning she came in and just said, "Bad news, boys, you know, your mum's died." And we didn't know of what. We didn't know anything about it, so yeah, it was a huge shock to the system. I suppose you just thought, well, what are we going to do now? You know, what's going to happen? But it's funny, I was talking to a friend the other night, and he was saying a lot of people, particularly in the music business, someone like Bono, John Lennon, myself, all had tragedies at that early age and had to sort of pick themselves up and go and do something. Or go under. Certainly that was what gave me a big bond with John, that we'd both lost our mums. He lost his in a particularly terrible accident, and he was very close to his mum as I was to mine. So we were two Liverpool kids growing up who'd lost their mums at an early age.
He was 16, you were 15 when you met, weren't you? So it was early.
So it was very early. So we both had this problem to deal with, which sort of, you know, a personal loss. We had the emotional side to deal with, and just the physical side of how we were going to earn some money, because both my parents worked. So yeah, it was very difficult, but it did make me sort of resolve to earn money. I really remember looking around the estate where I lived and thinking, what's the main problem here? You know, that I'm going to have to face it. And it was lack of money. So nobody had money, you know, and they were always arguing. Husband and wives were always, well, you never gave me that, oh, you know, and it was always, I thought, if I can avoid that, this would be good. So I think that was kind of one of the big things behind doing the Beatles, as it was for John, you know, just sort of get out and
as you say, earning money, your first gig, as it were, was at a Butlins camp, was it, Clive?
Yeah, that was a little amateur talent contest that my brother and I entered. And we sang Bye Bye Love by the Everly Brothers. I had short trousers on. In those days, you didn't get long trousers till you were like about 12 or something. So now, you know, kids have got jeans and everything aged 5, you know, and younger. But it was a thing in our family that, I don't know what they're doing, training your legs or something, getting them weather worn for the future. But yeah, so I had these grey trousers, a little school cap and a uniform, which looking back on it, I think that was probably my best set of clothes to go to Butlins in. You know, now it would be the kind of the hat thing, the shades and everything, and the iPad. So yeah, we got up on stage and sang Bye Bye Love. And didn't win.
Didn't win?
No, we never won talent contests. The Beatles never won anything. We once famously got beaten by a woman, an old lady, playing spoons.
Oh no. That was a big...
She was good, mind you.
Yeah. And a good spoon player takes a lot of beating. A lot of beating. Apart from spoon players, your earliest musical influences in those days were Elvis, Buddy Holly, Carl Perkins, Chuck Berry and Little Richard. Those were sort of the names that spring to mind from that past.
Probably the most influential were Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry, because what we noticed about them that was different was they sang their own songs. They wrote these songs and they played to accompany themselves. And that was what we wanted to do. We had guitars, we wanted to sing, and then there was this final thing of, ooh, we'll write too. So Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly were very good writers. Chuck Berry's quite a poet, you know, in that scene.
Tell me who's the queen standing over by the record machine, looking like a model on the cover of a magazine.
And the other thing was we suddenly needed to write because we'd be backstage at a gig where there'd be other bands on before us, and we'd hear Long Tall Sally, and say, oh, that's I was going to do that. They would hear, you know, Blue Suede Shoes, go, oh, John was going to do that. Oh, God. And they would do our entire act because we were all drawing from the same source, you know, records. So we started to have to look for B-sides and unusual tracks, and then started to think, well, we might try writing some. So none of this kind of the great muse came upon us, the Lennon-McCartney muse. There was none of that. It was just we needed to, so they couldn't get at our songs.
Did you write so prolifically that the record company couldn't really keep up with you? I mean, when you look at the number of songs that are 1962, 1963, 1964, I mean, you were fantastically prolific.
But you know, David, I mean, I love looking back on it, especially when I'm talking to younger people about the business, because they'll say, well, how did you do all that? I'll say, well, it was because that was what you did. That was what the grown-ups told you to do. I remember being in a meeting with Capitol Records, and we said to them, well, what do you want? You know, they said 4 singles a year and 2 albums. We said, okay. Yeah, fine, you know, 4 singles, 2 albums, right? And Brian Epstein would ring us up, our manager Brian, would ring us up the week before we were going to do an album, me and John, and he'd say, or 2 weeks before, he'd say, you've got next week off to write the album. So that was all we could do. We couldn't say no, or we couldn't say we want 3 weeks. It was like, in fact, we had the opposite reaction, which was, great, a week off, wow. And we'd write 8 or so songs to go in the studio with. So it was just what you were expected to do.
Yeah.
You were told to arrive at the studio at 10 o'clock and be prepared by 10:30 for the grown-ups to arrive. And then you would tell them what you were going to do. John and I would actually then tell George and Ringo what we were going to do, because we would have written, they wouldn't know the song. There's no such thing as demos or anything. We'd play the song, go and record it in 1.5 hours. That's all you had. And then the next 1.5 hours, the other song for the morning.
Yeah.
So you do these 2 songs, you'd have an hour off for lunch, which you paid for yourself down the pub. It was a half a bitter and a cheese roll. You'd come back, 2:30 to 5:30, do 2 more songs. So you did 4 songs in a day. So it was, that was all we knew. It was required, so we did it.
Well, in fact, I read somewhere that George Martin at the very beginning expected you to be doing a song by him.
Oh, I know, Mitch Murray, yeah.
And in fact, I mean, you were ready to do your songs, and he wasn't expecting that. And of course, from the word go, that was the magic.
Yeah, well, George told us to do this song. He said, it's a hit. And we wanted a hit. He said, this is a #1 hit, I know. So we said, well, let's hear it. And he played it. We said, don't like it. He said, no, please, boys, do it. It's a hit. So we said, no. And we resisted very strongly. In the end, he said, look, do it. And if you really still hate it after you've done it, I won't force you to release it. So we did it. And we still hated it.
Yeah.
And we still hate it. So he gave it to Jerry and the Pacemakers, who had a #1 hit with it. How do you do what you do to me? Classic.
Yeah.
We were wrong. Now, you know, so we just said, we'll write our own.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's take a look at Beatlemania.
Here are the Beatles.
I need somebody help, not just anybody help. You know I need someone help. When I was younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. Now these days are gone, I'm not so self-assured, and now I find I've changed my mind, I've opened up the door.
There was like, it became like a religious fervour almost overnight, didn't it? It must have been thrilling and sometimes terrifying to you.
I don't think it was terrifying to us, because I think we were... The good thing about the Beatles' career is it was a staircase. So now where you'll get kids come in at the top, you know, Pop Idol, American Idol, We've Got Talent, whatever, X Factor. Yeah. They come in, poof, and they're, over a period of, 8 weeks, they're major national stars. Well, we couldn't get arrested at first, so we would play little clubs, and then we'd play Hamburg, and then we'd play little theatres. Well, no, ballrooms, then theatres, bit of telly, and so on and so on. So by the time we came to be really famous and the screaming began, we were a little bit used to it. Yeah. We thought it was rather cool. I mean, we knew them. We knew who they were. We'd see them in the stage door. And you kind of knew who they were. In fact, they were us a few years ago. And we'd been fans very recently, so we knew how it felt, you know, so we weren't frightened of them, for sure.
And it really carried on until the sad days when the Beatles came to an end. I mean, it wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime thing, it was consistent.
No, it grew and sort of evolved, which is quite nice. I was talking to someone recently about that, a musician, saying that was where we learned that albums ought to evolve, rather than just, that's their hits, and here's another collection of hits, exactly the same, only different songs. We felt we had to grow. Yeah, we sort of felt that we were artists and that it would be a good thing to evolve, and this next album shouldn't be the same as the last one, which made it more fun, of course, you know, probably more difficult, but we were just enjoying it.
But tensions emerged when Yoko Ono became a part of John Lennon's life.
She would sit in on sessions, and you'd have to try and get your mind around this.
The breakup of the Beatles was never going to be easy. But Abbey Road was to be their last album before they split. We'll hear more from Paul McCartney in part 2.
The truth is they aren't being recognized tonight simply because of their careers as great lyricists or songwriters. What's your name again? Paul McCartney.
We're talking to Paul McCartney, a living legend.
We just played South America, and I think there were about 300,000 people there.
Since the days of the Beatles, Paul's music has continued to be incredibly successful. His marriage to Linda and their 4 children brought him happiness at home.
Yeah, we did have a row, and it was like, oh, forget it, let's go and get married.
But when aged just 53, Linda contracted cancer.
Actually, what the doctors had told me privately, we caught it too late.
But first, back to 1970, and the news that shook the music world.
The disbanding of the Beatles, the breakup in 1970, was something a lot of people literally took to heart almost as much as the 4 of you. In fact, here's that particular moment in history.
Probably to do with growing up and to do with, there was a time when there were just 4 of them, but now they're married and there are children. And
what's been the reaction? Because Alan Klein's name is mentioned, and Alan Klein is definitely disowned in this question and answer.
By Paul.
By Paul.
Because he doesn't like Alan Klein.
Well, it's never pleasant when someone appears not to like you. Unfortunately, he is obligated into Apple for a considerable number of years, so
yeah,
his disassociating himself with me
Why,
has really no effect.
What are your reflections on that period now as you look back at there?
Well, I mean, it's interesting seeing Alan Klein, who is not with us anymore, so we shan't talk too badly of him.
But at least you can't be sued if you do.
That's true. No, it was just a weird thing. He came over, he wanted the Beatles, he made it known that he wanted the Beatles. He persuaded John and Yoko that he would be the great manager for the Beatles. And he persuaded them, he said to Yoko that he would give her an art exhibition in Syracuse. So, and then he got us all to pay for it. So, I mean, obviously then she was on his side. And, Alan Klein, he would say, what do you want? $1 million? You got it. So this was fairly persuasive argument. Yes. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. This doesn't look right to me. And so I disagreed with the whole thing, and it was not popular for that. But the guys came to me and said, he wants 20%. I said, 20% of the Beatles? I said, tell him 10 if you're going to go with him. And they came back, no, he wants 20. So I had to fight for it. It was a very difficult time for me personally, because I had to I was fighting the other 3 guys who are my lifelong buddies. But that was the only way. I said, no, I want to fight Klein. And they said, he's not party to any of the agreements. So it made no sense to fight him. So, after long soul searching and stuff, I decided I had to do it, or he would take everything the Beatles had ever earned and stuff. So I did, and I say now, thank goodness, people say thank you,
And so, but if Brian Epstein had not died, and therefore Alan Klein had not found a space that he could involve himself in, God knows what would have happened. The Beatles might have stayed together, and you'd still be in the Beatles today. Or...
They might have, but I think John in particular was ready to do something else. And when Yoko came along, part of her attraction, I think, was the sort of avant-garde side of things, which she was famous for, and still is. So she showed him another way to be that was very attractive to him. And I could see that, she's just sort of said, well, no, look, how about this? Don't you like this? Are you just a rock and roller? And so I think it was time for John certainly to leave. It was a bit of a shock to all of us. He just announced it, I'm leaving the group. We all said, oh, are you sure about that? And we tried to keep it together, but he was definitely going to leave. So that was basically what did it. But I think in a way, then we realized that we'd come full circle. We'd kind of done everything we wanted to do, and it was a neat body of work. Yeah. So it probably was a good idea. And then later, when we got offers to reform, we said, no, we've done it. It won't be as good. It might be crummy second time around. So in actual fact, it wasn't that bad a thing. It was a shock at the time.
You've never really blamed Yoko for the breakup, as a lot of people did, have you?
No, I think, at the beginning it was difficult because she would sit in on sessions. And you'd have to try and get your mind around this. You have to think, well, wait a minute. John's in love with this woman. This is not an ordinary relationship. She's not an ordinary woman. You've got to admit that. And if she wants to sit in on the session, it's something that we wouldn't have done. Our girlfriends or wives wouldn't have done that. And it was an unspoken rule that you wouldn't sit in on a session. But so Yoko was doing it. So I think it created uncomfortable moments. But she certainly didn't break the group up. The group was breaking up. And I think she attracted John so much to another way of life that he then went on to do very successfully and had a sort of second part to his career, writing things like Imagine and doing Give Peace a Chance. I don't think he would have done that without Yoko. So you can't blame her.
After the breakup, there were 4 different careers then, but I mean, yours was to be the most prolific and so on, and you really got going quite quickly, as we can see here.
say live and let die. Everybody gonna jump and shout. Everybody gonna sing it out. Everybody gonna dance around the night. You can come on to my place if you want to. You can do anything you wanna do. Again, time always flowing in from the sea. My desire is always to be here for Mother Kintyre.
Mother Kintyre is really quite different to a lot of the things we've been hearing. It was a phenomenon in its own right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just decided I lived part of the time in Scotland on a farm. Linda loved it, and she just had this thing for Scotland.
I'm gonna tell everyone I know, looking for a home in the heart of the country.
So we lived there and brought the kids up there part of the time. And I just thought, there's no new Scottish songs. It's all old airs or Amazing Grace and stuff like that. But there are no new Scottish songs. So I thought, it might be a good thing to try. So I tried. I got the man from the local pipe band, the master of the band, Tony Wilson. He came in the kitchen with his bagpipes because I wanted to know what key it was in. I didn't know what my parameters were.
Yeah, yeah.
So we went, I said, we better go outside. It's very loud in the little kitchen. So we sat out in the little garden. He's showing, I've got my guitar. Oh, it's A and D, okay.
And the hits kept coming, but did that wonderful thing you once told me about yesterday and the fact that you woke up with yesterday and so on, did the tunes keep coming that way?
No, that's the only one I've dreamt. I've dreamt one or two others, but that weren't so good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'd done them, you know, but that was a special one. And it's not often songs arrive like that. I just think it was very magical the way that arrived. People would say through the, do you believe in magic? And I'd quote that as an example of why I sort of have to believe in something mystical, something magical. Because I had the whole song in my head, the whole melody. That's quite unusual, I think. You know, I think what's maybe unusual is remembering it. Because I know I know a lot of
like
people
a
who say,
you always forget a dream.
Yeah.
What if you'd forgotten yesterday?
Yeah, so
well, you would never know that you did.
You would have known I forgot it, but I would have forgotten it.
Yeah. And therefore you wouldn't have remembered it. Exactly, exactly. But then just around the scene, away from the field of work really, here are some just glimpses of your life and times.
And I will love her for life. And I will never let a day go by.
And that was a song you dedicated, in fact, you wrote it recently and dedicated it to Nancy.
Yeah, it was written for Nancy, yeah.
And you were immensely blessed in the meeting that you had with Linda that turned into what was a very special 29 years and so on. Began in the Bag of Nails, did it?
Yeah, yeah. In the club, the Bag of Nails. Yeah. I saw her across a crowded room, and I just thought she's nice, she's pretty. So actually, as she was leaving the club, I stood up and blocked her passage, as Max Wall would have said.
Yes, in the different context.
And I just said, hello, and I introduced myself. What's your name? My name's... And I said, we're going on to a club after this. Speakeasy. Do you want to come? So we met up there with her group of friends. She was with my group of friends. And that was it. No, we never looked back. Spent a lot of time with each other and had 4 beautiful kids.
You said once, amazingly, that you had a terrible row the night before you got married, this perfect marriage, and
yes.
Even that can happen on the day before a perfect marriage.
I'm not sure there's such thing as a perfect marriage. But yeah, we did have a row, strangely enough. And it was like, oh, forget it, let's go and get married.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, you've described it as the biggest possible nightmare when Linda contracted cancer and battled it for nearly 2 years.
Yes, it was obviously a huge shock. Anyone who's had that happen in their family knows. And you think, right, let's battle it. And in many cases you can. In her case, we caught it too late. And that becomes very difficult to do anything about. But we fought it, she fought it, we did everything we could. But actually what the doctors had told me privately when she contracted it was that, no, we caught it too late and that she will probably have about 18 months left, and that's what it was. We had to manage that time and try and defy their predictions. So it was a terrible thing for me and the family and all her family. Yeah.
Something like that must make you question whether there is somebody there that I can appeal to, and he doesn't seem to be listening or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's all very well to say there's a benevolent force and stuff, but then that's the old argument of when something like that happens, where were you?
Yeah.
What was that about? People used to say that, and still do about hunchbacks or something. What's that for? Why is a child born disfigured or disabled or something? I suppose I kind of choose to ignore that side of things because I can't work it out.
Which of these roles would you say is the proudest role in your life? Husband, father, songwriter, musician, philanthropist, and now crooner?
Father. Father, probably, yeah. And grandfather. To 8.
8?
Yeah.
The journals, the press, have trouble catching up with that. The last one I saw said 6, another one said 5.
No, it's 8 now.
But the truth is 8.
Yes, they've had 2 more. But no, I would say being a father, grandfather is probably my proudest thing. But the others are pretty cool too.
Oh, yes. And then, of course, you're a father, also of an 8-year-old as well now, with Heather and so on. Is it different being an older father?
When you do it second time around, as I have with my 8-year-old daughter, I think you're more aware. I know other people who are in the same situation, and you're more aware that time is fleeting, so you pay more attention. I think often when you're having your kids at an early age, you're building your career. This is what I find when I talk to people. Well, I was in the office all the time.
Yes, yes.
And I'm never home. And so this time around, I make time. You got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. You got to spread joy up to the maximum, bring gloom down to the minimum, have faith or pandemonium, liable to walk upon the scene. Too far.
rest in between.
You with your new lead singer there.
Yeah, I didn't realise he was going to get up, you know. It was such a fantastic evening, and we just enjoyed being at the White House, you know, British tourists, basically. I'm a big fan of his. So we're chatting, and Nancy's chatting to his wife. We're having a great time. We come to do the concert. He gives me my award, and then we're going to finish with Hey Jude.
Hey Jude, don't be afraid.
So I see them get up as I start to get towards the end of Hey Jude. And I think, oh, well, they're leaving. They've been told, you know, leave before the end. It's seemly. So I think, well, that's fair enough. Bit of a pity, but that's fair enough. I suddenly see they're walking on the stage. And he's going, Judy, Judy, Judy. He's doing the whole thing. It was very nice. And my crew loved him because he had time for them. You know, he had time for us, but he took time out to sort of shake my crew's hands and thank them. They were on their phones. Guess who I've just shaken hands. We had a great evening.
And now this is our last clip coming up.
The future? Must see this.
Have you got any ambitions, in fact, in other spheres completely? I mean, do you want to be Prime Minister one day? Or, I mean, does that sort of thing?
No, I don't want to be, no, nothing like that, no. I can't. Retire, you know, that's...
And when do you think you'll achieve that ambition, in fact?
The way things are going in a couple of years.
But
no idea.
Everybody, I imagine, says to you the pop world is very short-lived and everything like that. And what will you do when the phase passes? Do you think the phase will pass? Does it worry you?
No, yeah, I couldn't care less really. I don't think. You know, if we flop tomorrow, it'd be sad, you know. Yeah. But I mean, it wouldn't really worry me.
Thank you very much. It'll be a great pleasure to watch Paul McCartney in retirement, but it will probably be in the year about 2010, I should think. Thank you.
He wasn't that far out, that fellow, was he?
No, he was pretty good.
Because here we are 2 years after that date, and you're nowhere near retiring, are you?
Not really, you know. No, I saw something I wrote, or it was quoted as saying the other day, it'd be pretty sad to be prancing around on a stage at 40. No, I'm still prancing.
Yeah.
And enjoying it. People say to me, why do you do it? And I say, come to one of our shows and you'll see. It is phenomenal. We just played South America. We did a free show in the Mexico Square.
City,
and I think there were about 300,000 people there. And the warmth and the feedback that they gave us. Anyone who saw that, or anyone who even heard about it, would know that's why I do it. That's why I've always done it. It's just a great thing to do. And I feel sort of privileged to be able to put on a guitar still and play it, play the songs that I love, old songs and new songs. I just really feel very lucky that I'm allowed to do that, you know. So I'm not intending retiring just yet.
Could we tempt you to play us out with a bit of music?
I think so, David.
Oh, thank God. Praise the Lord.
What if it rained? We didn't care. She said that someday soon the sun was gonna shine. And she was right. This love of mine, my Valentine. And I will love her for life. And I will never let a day go by without remembering the reasons why. She makes me certain that I can fly, and so I do without a care. I know that someday soon the sun is gonna shine, and she'll be there, this love of mine, my Valentine.
Thank you so much.
All right, then. Well, Lady Madonna, children at your feet, wonder how you managed to make ends meet.
Yes.